What up, though, everybody? It's Hannah Smash, man, and I'm here today doing a reaction video and a couple comments on a divorce attorney who speaks about his career on Soft White Underbelly. Y'all know y'all have seen those weird interviews that just be super random. And I think we all kind of had that idea like, yo, what if I were to just interview random people and to get their story? Well, that's what Soft White Underbelly does. He interviews people of all shades, colors, tones, creeds, backgrounds, no matter where you walk in life. If you could just be a gang member, he gonna come and interview you. So today, we're gonna be watching a divorce attorney talk about his career, pros and cons, his own backstory, his life. This might get emotional, I don't know, but bear with me. Stick in there with yourself and join me as we embark on this great interview. I haven't seen it yet, but here we go.
I had a period of time after my divorce where I was really ambitious when it came to women, but then it felt like a job. Like it felt like a job after a while, where I was like, God, it's like enough. It's kind of enough. You know, like it's like it's like when you've eaten so much that you just go like, ugh. I got that way with pussy. Like it really was like I just had.
You said I got that way with pussy.
It was fine. I was like, this is great, but.
Well, when you're in your 20s or 30s, maybe your libido is strong. No, it makes you insane.
Yeah. I was not. I definitely was.
As we age, we mellow.
Yeah, which I think is great. Although I have to tell you, one of the most depressing divorces I ever did was a guy who was, I think, 92.
Oh, jeez.
And what made it depressing is that he had left his wife of, I don't know, 50-something, 60-something years for a younger woman, a woman in her 50s.
Can you imagine being married that long?
And what was sad about it to me was
God.
this guy is still being led around by his dick. Like I thought, oh my God.
That's real shit, though.
I'm going to be chained to an idiot forever. Like, I'm going to forever be led around by my dick. And I remember thinking, like, no, I really thought that at like 90-something, I would just, like a beautiful woman would walk by and I go, oh, there's a human being. Like there would be no...
You can appreciate it without...
Yeah, there would just be no sense of like, that would be gone from me. And this guy's proof that 90-something years old and you're still thinking with your dick. Like
we're doomed.
I got terrified.
Still thinking with
it
your
really
dick.
Did. It actually upset me because I thought, I thought at some point I'd get to experience what it's like to just be free.
You live in New York, where there's a financial industry. There's all kinds of industries here.
Oh yeah.
But to me, sometimes I wonder if female attractiveness isn't the highest valued commodity in our
100% it is. 100%.
It is.
Yeah, of course.
Because men are becoming rich and powerful in order to get a woman.
Of course.
The woman they want.
Of course. What an attractive woman. And when I say attractive, I don't just mean attractive. I mean even just sexually confident. Mm-hmm. I mean, what an unbelievably lucrative career that is.
No,
like, I do
literally.
divorces for people that, a woman walks out with $200-300 million. He was an analyst at Goldman Sachs who built a hedge fund and then sold it, and then used his trading algorithm to build it up to $500 million. She was hot and slept with him for a while and then stopped and started sleeping with other people and playing tennis and having Botox, and she's going to get half. Like, that's fucking incredible. Like, do you know what he had to do to get that? And what she had to... I'll fuck that guy for $200 million. Are you kidding me? Like, that's insane. That's incredible. Like, and God bless. I mean, I'm not saying that this person... This is the rules of the game, but you can't argue that that's not easier than going to Harvard.
No, for sure. But then the payoff, the trade-off for that is that when they hit a certain age, the value decreases.
Right. Any stock, if you hold it too long,
exactly,
it's going to go down.
Like sometimes it's going to go down.
Play the stock the right way. I mean, and that's what I think. If we were a little more honest about the nature of male-female coupling, I mean, right now we can't even establish what is gender. We can't establish any of that anymore. So divorce has become incredibly hilarious and fraught.
Well, to me, what is...
He seemed like he owns something,
sometimes
don't
you have to stand back and look at things to
get
a real perspective on what it is.
Sure.
And sometimes you look back at marriage. So when was it invented? Like 2000 BC, roughly. And the life expectancy of humans back then was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And marriage was created for
land ownership
and things like that.
Yeah.
And if you're going to die in your early 20s or whatever, then getting married at 16, 18 makes sense.
Well, I think there's a distinction that has to be made between pair bonds and marriage, right? Marriage is a government concept. Marriage is a contract. Marriage is a legal status. Pair bonds, right? Two people go in it together, you know, saying, hey, there's 7.3 billion people in the world, and the two of us, we're gonna lock up together, and we're gonna try to hold hands and get through this thing.
Until we're 80 years old.
Well, until whatever, you know. I mean, what's interesting is, first of all marriages end. They end in death or divorce, but they all end. Like every marriage ends. So it's one of the only things that you go, wow, I really hope this ends in us dying. You know, most things, that's not the desired outcome. But in marriage, you hope marriage will end in death. You hope that you will be together until one or both of you die. You know, but all marriages end.
But
so
as a guy, as a provider, if you knew it was going to end and you were going to have to give away half your money, you might think twice about doing it.
Well, I think that's what makes being a divorce lawyer interesting, is that it's a lot of what a court has to do is disregard what happened in the marriage, because the truth is at the bottom of a bottomless pit. Like, you're never going to get there. Yeah, well, he's fucking his secretary. Right, because you were not sleeping with me anymore. I have a client whose wife acknowledges she didn't sleep with him for 6 years.
Holy shit.
What did you think was going on if you didn't sleep with him for 6 years? So, delegate. You've delegated that responsibility. If you don't want to have sex with him, that's okay. No one should force you to have sex with this person. Yeah. Let him go have sex with someone else. You don't want to do the laundry, hire someone to do the laundry. If you don't want to mow your own lawn, hire someone to mow the lawn. Delegate that responsibility. And this guy wasn't even sleeping around. He was going to those hand job places, you know, where you get a massage and get a hand. The most pathetic thing in the world, the most innocuous thing in the world. He didn't have a girlfriend. There was no love involved. He was getting jacked off for $50. Like, that's sad. Like, I mean, first of all, hand jobs, like,
I've been
that's
there.
an outdated technology. That's like a Betamax. You know, like, who even does that anymore? But he was doing this, and he just thought, okay, that's fine. She had the indignation to say, he shouldn't be a custodial parent. He's a terrible person because he's doing this. And it was like, wait, how is that much different than going to a strip club? How is that much more different? Because we just, you know, he was like, well, should I deny it? And I was like, is it true? And he's like, well, yeah. I said, no, we should own it. Let's go in and say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. My wife didn't sleep with me for 6 years, and I'm human.
Yeah, I had to resort to it.
And I wanted to have sex still. I didn't want to blow up my life. I didn't want to screw up my kids and have my kids have divorced parents. So I thought, all right, she's clearly not interested in me anymore. I'm not going to have a girlfriend and get caught up in all the things where people could get hurt and there's feelings and fatal attraction and stuff. I'm just going to go. It'll be transactional, like going to a strip club or anything else. And I mean, yeah, is it a little pathetic that I'm a guy who makes $1 million a year in finance and I'm paying someone $50 to jack me off? Yeah, it's kind of pathetic, but you know what? I figured out. But to suggest that means I'm a bad parent, that has nothing to do with my parenting at all, period.
Right.
You know? So, and thankfully the judge agreed with me on that. But I really do think that the idea, I don't think, I mean, if you break it down fundamentally, if 56% of marriages end in divorce, like, think about, that's the ones that end in divorce. So how many people, what percentage stay together for the kids? Or because they don't want to give away half their shit? Another 10%? That's conservative.
Conservative.
But let's say 20% then, okay?
That's at least right.
You now have a technology that fails 76% of the time. That's insane. That's insane. Mm-hmm. That's more likely than not. 76%. If I told you there's a 76% chance when you walk out the door today you're going to get hit in the head with a bowling ball, you would not go out, or you'd wear a helmet for
no
sure.
cap.
But
damn,
people just continue to get married. Not only do they continue to get married, there's a presumption that you should get married, and if you don't get married, there's something wrong with you. So if you've got a girlfriend and you've been with her for 5 years, and you say to someone, we're getting married, they go, oh, that's great. You know, they don't go, why? You're happy. Why would you get married? Like, everything's going fine. Why would you put yourself through that? Why would you run that risk? If you say to someone, we've been together 5 years, and we've decided we're not going to get married. We're going to move in together, but we're not going to get married. Ooh. What's wrong? You have intimacy issues? What's your problem? Meanwhile, 56% end in divorce. It's literally fits the legal definition of negligence. It's a negligent behavior. The way you define negligence in law school is when what you lose by not doing something, okay, is lower than the risk of harm. It's what's called a BPL analysis. So the burden of not doing a thing is lower than the likelihood, the probability of harm. So
Right,
BPL, so burden, probability, and loss. Marriage is an inherently negligent activity. It's like owning a lion. Like the likelihood of someone getting hurt seriously by this is very, very high. No one ever says it to you. Because why? Because, and I would say something, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I still get misty-eyed at weddings. Like I still really, there's something in me that goes like, you know, maybe it'll work out for these two.
That American construct, man.
I absolutely believe in love. I think love is wonderful. But love and marriage have very little to do with each other. I don't think there's much of a correlation
That's deep.
there.
That's really deep.
And I think that's where we got
What
off
you think?
track. Like, I believe in pair bonds. I don't think I can learn everything I need to know about myself from myself. I think having someone around me who sees my blind spots.
I think so, too.
And it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. That could be a friend. That could be any number of things. But there is something wonderful about romantic connection. We know that. I mean, the other statistic is 56% of marriages end in divorce, but 84% of people who get divorced are remarried within 5 years of their divorce.
Really?
Let's think about that. So now you've done it and failed and felt the pain of the loss, and within 5 years, 84% are remarried.
So when you fall in love, and you're with a partner who's in love with you,
Sure.
it's like hard to put the brakes on and say, you know what, that's as far as I'm going to go.
Well, I think whoever discovered water, it wasn't a fish. And I think when we're in a thing, we don't see it. And so, I mean, and this is true
No,
of
but
any
there
of us.
must be some endorphins, something's being released
I
in our
think it's
brains.
a piece. Listen, you want to test that theory. The next time you're out with a couple who've been together for a while, and it like seems like they maybe got in a fight, or they're just like kind of being, impatient with each other at the table. You know, when you go like a group thing. Just say to them, so tell me about how you met. Tell me the story of how you met. And everything on them changes. And, like, they go back to that place. And there's this like, oh yeah, and she was this. Because for that second, you go back to that place. Like, you can go, someone with a horrible divorce, if you could get them to go to that place and talk to you about that time. Like, I would tell you something, when I was a kid, like every kid, you have the fantasy of like, if you were invisible.
Therapist.
What would you do? You'd go to the girls' locker room, whatever. I have this fantasy that if I could be invisible, I have about 8 clients that I'd like to sneak into their house and find their wedding album. Like, I know it's in the attic somewhere or something. Because I would love to see what it looked like when these people loved each other. Because they are weaponized against each other now. And we are trying to kill each other. And we're taking every secret, every intimacy, everything. And we're just...
At their ugliest.
At their ugliest, at their worst. And there's something in me that just the thought that, like, you guys at some point you were like, there's 7.3 billion people in the world and you're the one. Like, you're the one I just want to be with and smell and touch and like that feeling. We all know that feeling of like just the electricity of another person, and I mean, I think I'm a romantic at heart in the sense that I really get it. Like, I really get why we do this. I felt it, I know it, I understand it. But tying that to the technology of marriage to me makes almost no sense whatsoever. And I actually think it's almost antagonistic to that connection.
That's real
with another
shit.
person. Because there's so much expectation that comes with marriage culturally. We've created so much stuff.
You could be in love with somebody and marriage be the downfall.
When you marry someone, they're supposed to be, at least in the modern Western model, your best friend, best roommate, best co-parent, best travel partner, best roommate, best everything, best activity partner. Like, how would one person be all of those things? That's insane.
Right.
Like, if I was interviewing for a job and said, I want you to be the best typist, and I also want you to be best on the phone, and I also want you to be great at that. And I ran down a list of dissimilar things. Like, or if I went to an amazing chef, and I said, I know you're a great chef, but can you farm? Like, well, that has to do with food, but they're not the same thing. Like, what are you talking?
He's
so
intense.
I think, why do we put on people this idea, like, whoever came up with the word soulmate, really we should be paying, like, divorce lawyers should be paying that person dividends. Because we've convinced people that if this person isn't meeting every one of your needs, checking all of these boxes, they're not your soulmate. Your soulmate would know exactly what to do exactly.
Like perfection.
Exactly
it doesn't
right.
exist. Can't have a perfect nothing.
I can go off on this stuff.
Yeah.
bro.
What do you think the secret is to
Amen,
keeping
brother. God bless you.
a marriage vital, keeping it alive?
Talk to me,
You know,
brother.
I think people get unhappy in marriages the way that people go bankrupt, which is very slowly and then all at once. I think it's very slow and then it just goes off a cliff. So everybody will say, well, we divorced because he was cheating or she was cheating, or we divorced because he had an alcohol issue or a drug issue, which lately we're seeing more like alcohol and drugs is a big thing, especially post-pandemic. There's a tremendous amount of substance abuse stuff that's causing a lot of issues in marriages. And certainly, like, social media has increased the accessibility of adultery and connections to other people and reconnections with people from your past who remind you of a version of yourself that you felt more excited about because you were younger. So it's, you know, it used to be if you like ran into the girl you banged in high school, it was like once every 10 years at a reunion, you know, or if you lived in the same town as you grew up in, you know, you might run into the person at the Walmart. But now it's like on Facebook, you have all these excuses to be able to chit-chat with someone. All these benign entry points, you know, of like, oh, you know, I saw your pictures from vacation. Where did you stay in Miami? You know, and then it becomes, oh, yeah, well, you looked great. I mean, boy, you look fantastic in a bikini. And then all of a sudden, we're off to the races and we're chatting with each other. So, you know, if we were going to invent like an infidelity machine, you couldn't do better than Facebook and Instagram. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. But I genuinely think that the secret to staying happy in a marriage is probably the same secret to maintaining a healthy weight. You know, don't wait till you get super fat and then try to lose the weight. Don't wait until you get really sick. Like, my sister is a dentist, and she always says, if you have a toothache, there's nothing I can do, really. Like, I can pull the tooth, I can give you a root canal, but like, I can prevent you from getting a toothache. If you just come see me regularly and you just floss and you just brush your teeth, you'll never get a toothache. By the time your tooth hurts, something is already seriously wrong. By the time you're in a divorce lawyer's office, you're fucked. The whole thing's fucked at that point. Like, you'd be better off just, you know, figuring out the preventative maintenance, right? Like, change the oil in your car. Like, so what I try to, if you reverse engineer divorce, like most people, the marriage killer, you know, the cheating or the gambling or the whatever, that's the symptom. Like, the problem is these little disconnections, you know. One of the best stories I have is I had a client who I did her divorce, and we'd spend a lot of time together, because you do. You know, when you're a divorce lawyer, you spend a lot of time with people, and you get to know them very well. I mean, people will lie to their therapist. They won't lie to their divorce lawyer because, A, there's no reason to, and B, you know, I need to know everything, and it's all attorney-client privilege. And this woman, we were sitting outside the courtroom waiting on a break in testimony.
Therapist is crazy.
And she was a young woman in her probably like late 30s, you know, very attractive. And we were just chit-chatting, and I said to her, you know, was there a moment when you realized the marriage is over? You know, like, was there a moment? And she said, yeah. And I said, when was it? And she said, there was this granola that I like. She said, they only sold it at like this particular grocery store, and I like to put it in my yogurt. And she said, he used to always, whenever I'd be running low on it, I would just open the thing one day and a new bag would be there. She's like, and she's like, it made me feel so loved. Like, I didn't have to ask. He didn't want credit for it. Like, he didn't go like, oh, did you see? I got your granola that you wanted. You know, like, he just would do this thing.
That's me.
Know?
I'd be like, hey,
and
bitch,
she said it was just something that, like,
hey,
it always made me smile. She said every time the granola was running low and there was a new bag of granola, I just felt very loved, you know. And she said one day the granola ran out. And I thought, oh, that's weird.
Big sign.
Maybe he didn't see it.
Red
She's
flag.
like, so I left the bag in there because I thought, well, at some point he'll notice. And he didn't notice. She goes, so I took the bag out and I waited, and he didn't get a new bag. And I thought, okay, this thing's going down. And I thought to myself, wow, that's like, you know, that's such a small thing, like granola. Like, you just... But these are the things. Like, these are the little things that make us feel loved and that are gestures of love. And I said to her, was there anything like that for you with him? And she said, yeah, blowjobs. And I almost spit out my coffee. And she goes, no. She goes, when we were first dating and even first married, she's like, I used to give him blowjobs a lot. She's like, you know, she's like, do it in the morning, took 2 minutes. And he was like super happy the rest of the day, you know? She's like, the rest of the day.
Damn, she had to call out his time like that?
Text me and be like, oh, I'm so good this morning. You know, I had such pep in my step now. And she's like, it was just like, what did it really take out of my life to do that? You know, and it made him feel good. She's like, and then I got to a point where I was like, well, you know what? No, I'll wait, and then tonight we can have sex, and we'll both enjoy that. Like, what do I owe him a blowjob? Like, no, you know, like I don't owe him that, you know. And then she said I got to a point where it was like I look back and I'm like, yeah, I guess I didn't do that as often, hardly ever, really, you know.
Which came first?
You know, I said that to her, and she said I couldn't tell you. She said, but I think it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
And I do think it's the same thing. Yeah. And I'm not saying blowjobs and granola is all you need to know, but and I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying that a blowjob is a small thing. I don't think I have any right to. I've never given one. But it seems like a phenomenal feat, and I'm grateful for everyone I've ever received.
Got weird
but
as hell.
I don't think it's a massive investment. Right? Just like buying someone's granola is not a mess.
But when you love somebody, you love doing things for them.
Right. Their pleasure pleases you. Their joy pleases you. You know? Like their
sometimes women just don't feel like doing that shit.
Makes you happy.
Exactly.
And somewhere along the line,
do it anyway. Amen.
And it happens a lot in marriage. It becomes, well, I'm not happy. Why should you be happy? You know, and then that creates a spiral.
Oh yeah.
And I really believe that that spiral could go in the other direction. Like if he did the granola, I think the blowjobs would have come. You know, and if
literally
if the blowjobs were there, I bet he'd have bought the granola. Like I can't prove that. There's no control group. You know, I can't run that research. But it feels to me like those little things, like leaving a note. You know, I've said to some of my
women out there
friends,
punching the air right
and
now.
They say to me like, you know, as a divorce lawyer, you know, see all this misery. Like, how do I stay out of your office? And I'll often say, I'm like, it's dumb little
blowjobs increased 10% after watching this video.
I'm like, leave her a note in the morning. Just leave a little note. Says, hey, beautiful.
Like and subscribe.
You know, so it was so fun watching that movie with you last night. So glad we got to have a date. I'll be thinking of you today. Love you. Like, what does that take? That takes like a minute, not even. Like, and look what it can do. Like, look at how that makes this person feel. And even if right away it doesn't work, on that moment it doesn't work, okay, do it enough times.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're either gonna figure out that this person's gone, and then just fucking bail. You're done. Because if you try for long enough and you give like that, but if you're not giving like that, and then you're not getting back either, well, I'm not surprised. You know, that's how you end up at my office, is this death spiral of everyone like, well, I'm not buying the granola. She's not giving me blowjobs. Well, I'm not giving him blowjobs. He's mean to me. Okay, well, everybody's just has an equal right to be fucking miserable then.
I think if you're happy with yourself, you're truly happy with who you are at that point in your life or whatever the situation is, I think it's easier for you to be happy with your partner.
Yeah, but I would argue that if you're not
everything...
happy with yourself, having someone happy with you is certainly not going to hurt your feeling of who you are, right? Like I don't need someone to tell me I'm handsome for me to have a nice day, but I can't think of anybody telling me I was handsome that it ruined my day. You know, most of the time you're
real
like, well,
shit.
that's nice. You know, I got that going for me.
He a real brother.
So yeah, I think self-love, of course, is the most important love, and to be secure in who you are, and to not allow your self-definition to be easily swayed or pulled. Like if you believe the good reviews, you got to believe the bad ones too. I get that, but I just don't think kindness, like it's just such an easy, like especially if it's easy. Like if it's easy stuff, like just telling someone that they're beautiful or handsome or that you're cheering for them. It just, to me with marriage or pair bonds, I shouldn't even say marriage, like the world is trying to kill you all the time.
Yeah.
You know? Like people are criticizing you all the time. You feel like a failure a lot of the time. If you compare yourself to other people, you'll constantly be, you know, comparison's the thief of joy. So why not have like one person who's just cheering for you? You know, like constructive criticism is criticism. It's still just criticism. So if your spouse is just sitting around criticizing you and telling you all the things you could do to improve yourself, instead of just being a fan and just saying, you know what, I know who you are and you're beautiful. I know who you are and your heart is good. And betting on the best parts of a person. I think that there's very little downside to that.
Can marriage really work?
I think it'd put guys like me out of business if people really leveraged that the right way.
I asked you earlier if you believe in love, but you said you do. Do you believe in marriage?
I mean, I believe people believe in marriage.
No, but do you?
Yeah. Do I believe in marriage? I don't. I don't think it's a useful technology. I understand culturally why people do it, but I don't think people should need it. I know I certainly don't need marriage.
You're putting this job all on the line.
I was married. I was married before I really ever thought about what does that mean.
Me too.
I married my college sweetheart.
Me too.
I got married because that's what you do. You get married.
Right.
But I hadn't thought about it as a technology and why it's there. I didn't understand it the way I do now. There's a line from a Joseph Brodsky poem that he wrote when his wife died, where he says, "I wish I knew no astronomy when stars appear." And I feel that way as a divorce lawyer. Like, I wish I knew no astronomy when stars appear. I wish I didn't know what the end of so many marriages looks like, because I think I would have a more optimistic and unrealistic view of it. I would.
Yeah, but you'd be divorced. And
I'd be foolish. Yeah, I'd be foolish. I'd be as foolish. Shit. But I don't know that. I don't know that it's always good to know. Right? Sometimes there's tremendous joy to be had, and like falling feels like flying for a little while. Till you hit the ground. Yeah. It feels really good.
But as I said earlier, now that the life expectancy of man is around the 80s or something.
Yeah.
Then it's like, so you're going to do this from your 20s or 30s until you're 80?
Well, marriage is a technology that was designed for when women died in childbirth and when men died in their 40s if they were lucky. 50s if they were super lucky. Like if you were in your 50s, your 60s, you were an elder. That was pretty amazing. And most women died in childbirth. Like childbirth is traumatic. It's a traumatic thing, and before modern medicine and before we understood antibiotics. So marriage is I don't think anyone ever planned that it was going to be, okay, we're going to do this forever. We're going to do this till we're till we're 100. I mean, but I think that's part of a bigger problem. I don't remember who said it, but I remember someone saying, I can't remember who it was, but we are prehistoric creatures, right? Like we are biological creatures living in medieval institutions, like education, work, with godlike technology. How do you think that ends? Like you think that ends in happily ever after?
Yeah,
like that's insane. Like marriage was not designed. I mean, think about even the early days of marriage. Think about every Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. Think about Oklahoma. Where you'd have there's the 3 people in town that aren't married. And you sort of pick which of the 3
He's an interesting person to have a conversation with.
And now you have access to just an endless supply of the opposite sex, or I shouldn't even say the opposite sex. You have an endless supply of romantic partners in a device in your hand. How does that possibly stand up? How does marriage, the idea of monogamy, forced monogamy or enforced monogamy, how does that ever survive in that environment? I don't think it can. I don't think it's realistic. The statistics prove me right. The statistics are absolutely in my favor. Now, again, get married as many times as you want if you have a prenup. If you have a prenup, go get married. Getting married is a blast. Being married is difficult. Someone once said that it's great to be married sometimes. The problem is you're married all the time.
So you're a fan of prenups?
I'm a huge fan of prenups. I mean, I shouldn't be, because a prenup for a couple of $1,000s will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially in legal fees, if not millions. So there are clients I have that have spent over $1 million just in their legal fees, that if they had spent $2,000 on a prenup, none of that. They'd still have that money in their pocket. And that's incredible to me. Like, I have 2 sons who are adults, that they are absolutely going to have prenups. Like, they have to have prenups. They'd be fools to not have prenups. It's like jumping out of a plane with no parachute. Why would you do that? It's stupid. Prenups are enforceable. They make sense. I actually think there's something very romantic about prenups, because they're forcing you to have a conversation about this relationship. I genuinely believe that we are the most aware of our health just after we got sick, right? Like if you wake up and you have a toothache, all you can think about is the fact your tooth hurts.
Yeah.
And then your toothache goes away, and for like a week,
you're taking care of your teeth.
You go, oh my God, at least I don't have a toothache, you know? But then a month goes by, and you don't wake up and go, well, at least I don't have a toothache. You know, it's the furthest thing from your mind. But theoretically, you could wake up today and go, I don't have a toothache, I don't have a backache, I don't have a head cold. Like, this is a great day.
What does a typical prenup look like?
The easiest prenup in the world. Easiest. Yours, mine, ours. That's it. Yours, mine, ours. If in your name, it's yours. If it's in my name, it's mine.
Like in a divorce, everything, all the assets are split 50-50.
Well, no. What you say in a prenuptial agreement is, if it's an asset or a liability, if it's in my name, it's mine. If it's in your name, it's yours. If it's in our joint names,
then it's ours.
We'll divide it 50-50. That's it. Yours, mine, ours. And then you have to have ongoing conversations throughout the marriage about, you know,
yours, mine, ours.
Hey, I got this bonus at work. Do I put it in my account? Do I put it in the joint account?
But if the husband owns a house that's worth, whatever, $2 million, and he marries a woman, the house is his still?
Well, they have to have a conversation. Do I owe you a house?
That's an awkward conversation.
Okay. You know what's a more awkward conversation? A conversation 10 years later with a lawyer about the fact that you have to give half of this house away to someone. Isn't it better to have that conversation when you still, like, why would you learn how to fight in a fight?
But won't that undermine the love that each person feels?
Yeah, why?
You're going to die. Does that undermine your life? Or does it make you conscious of the fact that this is finite? And that you should be out there. Like, I think having a conversation with your partner about, look, I love you. You love me. We want to do this thing together. But the numbers are against us, and the world is antagonistic to it, and I hope we'll be together forever. But if we split up, what do we owe each other? What do you expect from me? Because I have to tell you something. I'm a fair person. I'm a fair person. If you say to me, you know, Jim, if I'm not going to work as hard because you make a good living. So if we split up, I'm going to need help for a couple of years because I'm not going to pay attention to my career. Okay? Is that unreasonable? That's totally reasonable. You know, if I say, hey, listen, I have this house and I bought it, you know, but I'm buying it with money that I made really before we were together. So if we split up, I don't really think you deserve half of it. I think that if we bought things for it together, that, okay, those things you can half of, but the house itself, like, that's money I had before I met you, and why can't you have that conversation? Why not? Instead, I mean, you buy a house. You do a HUD-1, a lead paint disclosure. You got to sign all these things that this is how much the interest is going to be, and this is you get married and get a fucking pamphlet. You don't get anything. You just did the most legally significant thing you're ever going to do other than die, and no one has explained any of it to you. People come into my office and they go, well, my retirement account, that's in my name. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's in your name? Okay, was it acquired during the marriage? Okay, she's got half of it. Well, I have this bank account, but it's in my sole name. It's money that I inherited from my mom. I'm like, okay, and it's in your name. Yeah, but you inherited that money during the marriage. Yeah, and did you put money that you earned during the marriage in that account also? Yeah, okay, that's commingled and transmuted. That's now marital property. So they don't know that. Why? Because no one tells them that when they're getting married. All of it, you spend more time talking about the cake.
I wasn't expecting this.
Than you do talking about the fact that you just opted out of the title system. That's gigantic. You can't legally change the beneficiary of your life insurance, even to your children if you're married, without your spouse signing a consent to that. No one tells you that when you get married. Elvis can marry you for $20 at a drive-through cathedral. And it's a legal status, a massive legal. You buy your spouse a Rolex, you bought yourself one half of a Rolex. You buy someone a birthday present who you're married to, you bought yourself one half of that birthday present. Nobody knows. People don't know that. They learn that for the first time in my office or in a courtroom. That's insane. What other thing in the world, like anything else, any other contract, you would say, well, wait a minute, no one explained that to me. No one explained that to me. When I leased this car, no one explained to me that there's wear and tear. It doesn't say it anywhere in the contract, right? Okay, marriage contract doesn't say that. It doesn't say, you know, oh, and by the way, you're opting out of the title system and your retirement assets and all these other things, and if there's any debts, and you could have enhanced earning capacity or celebrity goodwill that has to be valued by forensic accountants that'll cost you $100,000. No contract that says that. It just says, yep, we're getting married. It's two witnesses. We're good. Like, what other contract in the United States or anywhere has that lack of disclosure and is that binding? None. Zero. None. So why a prenup? Yes, that's an awkward conversation, I guess. I don't know that it has to be.
The lawmakers kept it easy as they could.
The more awkward the conversation it is, the more you should think twice
We don't
about
want to
getting
deal with
married.
this. Half and half.
Because if you can't have a conversation with this person about the possibility that someday one or both of you might hurt each other, like, how many people, while they're still happy and in love, say something like, you know, babe, I love you, but we're going to disagree about something at some point.
Right.
And when we do, how do you like to fight? Like, do you need a minute? Like, do you need, like, to be alone for a minute?
Nobody
so you can
ever
kind of
asked that.
calm down? Or are you the, like, hey, we got to figure
start
this
now,
out.
though.
We can't go to bed angry.
We're going to start
like,
now.
because let's talk about that now while we're not in a fight. Like, let's talk about it now while we still get along and we're happy and we're trying to figure out how to navigate each other. It's hard enough to navigate yourself. I want to navigate another human being.
Oh, my.
Why don't we have that conversation now? But no, we don't. We learn on the job. We learn how to fight in a fight, which is insane. You know, but again, why? Well, because it's, you know, it's awkward. It'd be awkward to have that conversation. More awkward than getting in a fight where you don't know the rules of engagement, where you don't know how your partner does better or would feel better. Like, and you're not going to ask them that in the heat of battle, you know? So why wouldn't you have that awkward conversation while you have this abundance of affection for each other? I mean, when I negotiate prenups, it's the easiest thing in the world in a sense because these two people really like each other. You know, they're about to get married. So they're clearly not trying to kill each other. At that point, they clearly like each other. So you just say, hey, listen, go home, talk to your fiance about X, Y, and Z. And see what they, you know, see what they think. And tell them what your concern is. And very often people will come back and say to me, I mean, I have to tell you, I've been doing this now, you know, over 20 years. I do a lot of prenups. I do maybe 5-6 prenups a month. Sometimes during like pre-wedding season, which is the fall and before the summer, I'll do 10-15 a month. The people who say to me, oh, well, I don't want to have that conversation. You know, they get the prenup, and within 3-4 years they're divorced. Sometimes 5 years, and then 7 years. But they're the ones who get divorced. They have no business getting married. Like the ones who have the discussion and figure out.
They last maybe 10, 20 years.
Because if you keep the place, yeah, you're right. Okay, so what if I give you this amount of money and it's this much for each year? Okay, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it that way. Those people, they'll probably never put the prenup in a safe someplace. You'll never look at it probably.
Good communication solves the problem.
Yeah, because they're able to talk to each other and they're able to talk about hard things. How are you going to be married to someone, have children with someone, and you can't talk about hard things? You know, like how? How are you going to navigate life and not be able to talk about hard things? Like that's silly. So if you can't talk about hard things, don't get fucking married. It's okay. You don't have to. You can stay together. But people love. I had a client. No joke, guy was in his 70s. He was married 4 times. I did his 3rd and 4th divorces, and he was getting married for a 5th time. And I said to him, I was like, because I actually thought he's older. So I thought, like, does he know you don't have to marry them anymore? Like, maybe he doesn't know.
He don't know.
Yeah, maybe someone didn't tell him. Like, maybe someone didn't tell him.
One of these has to
fuck
work.
them. You don't
God
have
damn
to
it.
marry them anymore. You can just do that.
He's dividing his asset multiple times.
Well, I mean, it's getting smaller and smaller every time. But I said to him, I was like, why are you doing this again? I was like, you don't have to get married. Like, you're clearly not great at it, you know? Like, and he was very funny. He said, you know, Jim, he said, you buy a car and you drive it for 200,000 miles and eventually the engine craps out. So you go out and you buy a Ferrari or you buy some flashy sports car and you drive it for a couple months and you realize this is not the car for me. So you get rid of it. And then you get another car. And, you know, you think this one's going to be the one for you, but, you know, after you drive it for like a year, you realize, yeah, this is not the car for me.
You can lease them instead of buying them.
You're going to walk everywhere for the rest of your life? Yeah, well, that was my answer. You could lease them. You could lease them. Or you could have some other alternate arrangement. I mean, here's the thing about marriage is it's a technology. So we made it up. So we can change it.
Right.
You think marriage will change in the next 20 years?
No. I actually think it's going to have. I mean, I think the pendulum always swings hard in the other direction. We have a tendency as a culture to overcorrect. So I think we're heading into a spiral of like traditional stuff. Like I think you're going to see like people getting like super religious again, and people are going to get super dogmatic. I think we're going to see the trad wife thing. We're going to see the hyper masculinity. We're going to see like a very, you know, we've gone so far in the direction of postmodernism where nothing means anything and everything's just, you know, like there is no definite. We become like Sartre, you know, like we've become so postmodern that it's become almost a form of rugged individualism. I think we're going to swing in the other direction now, and traditional institutions are going to get popular again. It will be. I mean, you know, from a marriage place, it's going to be great because I think people are going to get married. I mean, people were slowing down on getting married for a while, and they were getting married later, and they were having kids later, or declining to have kids. And I think as a culture, we start re-solidifying into gender roles or gender tropes, depending on how we're going to look at it. I think you're going to see marriage resurge again. But I think that it's still going to be as flawed of a technology as it ever was.
Certainly.
And I think we have so much out there now to compare ourselves to. You know, you used to compare yourself to the neighbors next door and what car they had in the driveway and what they were wearing when they left for church on Sunday. Now you're just looking at everyone's greatest hits while living your gag reel, you know, and you're never looking at any of that stuff when you're having like a peak experience. You know, you're on the toilet or you're bored, and you're looking at everyone's #blessed. And meanwhile, they're in my office. Like, I can't tell you how many people do a consult with me, and they're cheating, and they haven't slept with their spouse in 3 years, and they're miserable. And you're looking at their Instagram, and it's all like, best life ever, #greatest hubby ever. And you're like, what is this? It's performance art. You know, it's an advertisement of how happy you are. But this is what people are comparing themselves to. They're looking at that.
Very well articulated.
Oh, my marriage isn't that good. Well, that marriage isn't that good. Trust me, that marriage isn't that good. That marriage is in my... Look at celebrities. You don't even need to look at the people you know. Look at celebrities. Before they do it is with great sadness that we advise that we're going to be moving in separate directions and consciously uncoupling. And like that, right before that, it's like, oh no, we're happy, we're great, we're phenomenal, you know.
And the Hollywood should be the worst to look up to. Don't look up to that.
Constantly how wonderful our relationships are while they're on fire. You know, and then wondering why everyone's, you know, miserable in their relationship because they're comparing it to something fake. It's like comparing your body to a photoshopped body. You know,
other than social media, do you think there's something else in our society that made marriage more difficult to stay together?
Now makes it more difficult.
And just like, you know, your parents stayed married?
Yeah, my parents stayed married until my mother passed away.
Same with me.
But they were mixed results. I think that my parents were not as caught up in their own happiness. I think we're very caught up in our own happiness.
We're all very self.
Yeah, we're all very sort of, I don't want to say narcissistic, but we're very much like we are the sun around which everything revolves.
What am I not getting?
Yeah, my father was a Vietnam veteran. You know, he got out of the Naval Academy in '66 and went to Vietnam for 3 years. So he was alive. So he was like, fuck, I'm ahead. I'm playing with the house's money. I'm alive. Everybody in their wedding party died. All the men in their wedding party died in Vietnam. There's 5 guys in their wedding party. They all died in Vietnam. My parents never looked at their wedding album because every single man in it was dead. They were all helicopter pilots in Vietnam who got killed in their 20s. You know, so they didn't really see marriage as like it was a partnership. It was like, yeah, we're going to do this thing. We're going to have kids. We're going to raise the kids. We're going to, you know, we're going to have a house. You know, we're going to have a car. Like, we'll be successful. The lights are on. My father was dirt poor. He came from, like, Appalachian part of Virginia, a small town called Shawsville. Didn't have indoor plumbing until he left for the Naval Academy. And he just, I think he saw marriage as, yeah, it's what you do. You know, he met my mom on Fleet Week. She was a nurse in the city. And he was, you know, on Fleet Week, and he had his uniform on, and he was in a bar, and he was drunk. And he went to her, and he said, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and I'm going to marry you," because he was drunk. And she said, "Are you in the military?" Because he was wearing a uniform. And he said, "Yep." And she said, "What country?" And he said, "Whatever country you're from." And he invited her to visit him at the Naval Academy a couple of weeks later, and she came. But he'd invited 3 other women. He just didn't know if any of them would come. So he invited all of them. So my mom got there, and she saw these other women, and she said, either I'm leaving or they're all leaving. And he was like, I kind of like her, so he made them all leave. And they were married 50 plus years. But, you know, their marriage had challenges. You know, he was an alcoholic. He's been in recovery for maybe 7-8 years since she passed. But, And he's remarried, but he remarried within a year of my mom dying. Like, he was the kind of, he's of a generation of men that he needed someone to take care of him. You know, my mom died. He didn't even know how to scramble an egg. Like, it was, you know, like after she passed, I had him come to stay with me and my sons, and I was trying to like teach him, like, okay, Dad, here's how you make like a batch of chili, and then you can eat it all week, you know. And I was like, how's this guy gonna? Because they had this very, you know. But that's what he met another older woman, and her husband had died. She needed someone to take care of. He needed someone to take care of him.
But that generation didn't have it as easy as we did.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they
were
just
grateful.
meeting your basic needs, right?
They were grateful to be alive.
They were grateful to be
Damn,
alive.
that's really
because they'd either been
make you
through
look inside
war.
We're
yourself.
not grateful unless we're driving a Mercedes or a...
And even then we're not grateful. Because the truth is, well, okay, a Mercedes, but what's a Mercedes? Who cares? You know how many people have a Mercedes? My secretary has a Mercedes. She leases it. You know, I drive a Jeep. So is she better than me? Is she more successful than me? She works for me. You know, so I don't know that any of it's enough anymore. Like, no matter what watch you have, somebody's got another one or a better one or 5 of them.
And all this comparison that we see.
It's all. And so I just think that's the thing that makes it impossible, right? Like, if you're, our parents' generation was struggling to just make it through, right? To meet your basic needs, to keep a roof over your head,
you can tell
to raise
who
your
haven't
children.
had that upbringing.
Now where it's very much, are you self-actualized? Are you happy? Do you have 8-pack? Like, it would never have occurred to my father, did he have an 8-pack? It would never have been something he thought of, you know? It's just not. It just wasn't on his radar, you know? And I don't think my mother would have ever been like, oh, you know, he doesn't have an 8-pack. Like, that wouldn't... Because again, though, it's not constantly being advertised to him. You know, I think that how many women did he interact with in a day? You know, how many women do I interact with in a day, visually or personally in some fashion, or you know, in a curated, mediated way? And again, those are curated women, by the way. So they're photoshopped, they're airbrushed, they've got filters on them. So again, you know, how does marriage survive in that setting? It had a hard enough time surviving without all of that.
It's only going to get
I mean,
harder.
Forget kids.
The divorce rate keeps increasing, right?
Yeah, it keeps going up. It keeps going up. It's been hanging around 53 to 56% for a while. We had a bump after COVID.
What are other countries like?
Countries that have a significant religious narrative have the lowest divorce rates. So the lowest divorce rates are in, like, you know, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but they don't have a whole lot of choice.
Right, you're not allowed to divorce. You just have your wife killed, you know. So that's...
Damn.
You don't have to divorce. So the countries where there is this very strict religious prohibition against marriage, or against divorce...
But, I mean, the United States is probably the highest divorce rate?
We're among the highest, yeah. I don't think we're the high... We might be the highest now.
Gotta be the highest.
For a while, Germany had a very high divorce rate. France had a pretty high divorce rate.
Wow. Interesting.
What's interesting is the divorce rate and the marriage satisfaction rates. Those are different. Because most people, the goal is not, can we stay married? The goal is, can we stay happily married? You know? Because if somebody said to me, like, yeah, I've been married 25 years and I've been fucking miserable for 15 of them. Like, I'm not going to envy you. Like, great job. You really hung in there in that awful situation. You know? Like, that's not impressive to me. You know? I have a cousin who got married, and I was chatting with her. She's a younger woman, and her husband just joined the police force, and I said to him, so I was trying to make small talk, and I said, so do you like it? And he's from a family of cops, and he said, nah, not really, but you know, I'm gonna do like the 20 years, and then you know, you get your pension. I thought, I'll just do my 20. That's 20 years. You're 25 years old. That's 25 to 45. Those are fucking incredible years. You'll never get those back. And your approach to life is, yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but I'll just kind of do it, you know? Like, I want to tiptoe through life and arrive safely at death. Like, that seems, you know, but I get that that's what if that's what marriage is, if it's an endurance event, you know, where, no, you've got to stay married. You know, why? I mean, that's why I think religions have been very quick to... I mean, I always tell people I'm not religious. I was raised very Catholic. But the reality is that you know, I mean, there's... If in fact God talked to humanity with 10 commandments, I think it's hilarious that the only thing he has to say twice is don't fuck people you're not married to. Thou shalt not kill, once, right? Honor the Sabbath, once. Don't covet your neighbor's wife, don't commit adultery. It's the only thing. It's the only thing that got 2 commandments. So like basically it was don't kill, honor the Sabbath, don't fuck people you're not married to. Seriously, don't fuck people you're not married to. Like there's no, you didn't steal one. You know, it's the only one that got double billed.
Well, religion's a big component.
It's a huge component. So, but why? Because how else are you going to control people? How else are you going to get people to sign on for this thing and not sleep with each other? I mean, I'm not saying Freud was right, but we do want to sleep with people. We do want to kill people that don't do what we want them to do. Like we have these animal instincts. We have these impulses. And what do we do with them? Well, we have to live in a civilized society. So civilization that's discontent. We have to suppress certain things.
If marriage was outlawed or just abolished, it would just be a free-for-all?
I don't know that that's true. I mean, I think people would like us to believe that's true.
Right. We always trying to create
I don't believe that.
Something to follow.
Like, I don't believe that if murder wasn't illegal, that I would just go killing people. I rape and murder as many people as I want to, which is none. Because I'm not a monster. Like I rape as many people as I want to. None. Because I don't want to. I wouldn't want to do that to another person.
I think society would be probably happier without marriage.
Well, I think we would have a lot less of the damage.
Maybe
that comes,
it was edited,
right?
the system.
I think we'd have to find new narratives.
The foundation of it. Maybe
to structure.
Maybe that was different.
To define relationships, right? I mean, I do think there is a part of us that wants to say, because you know, I as a grown man who's divorced, when you're 20 and you say, oh, that's my girlfriend, nobody thinks anything of it. When you're 50 and you say, oh, that's my girlfriend, people go, oh, there's a story there. Like, because you're either divorced or commitment phobic, or why do you have a girlfriend when you're 50? Why isn't that your wife? So they know there's a story there. So we'd have to, and I get it, because if someone says, oh, that's my boyfriend, it's like, all right, well, that could be for a week. That could have been nothing. That could be like, yeah, it's my boyfriend. My husband, it's like, oh, okay, wait, that's her husband. Like, she's got some authority there. So I get that there's this idea that we want to say, like, you know, it's like when you're a little kid. This is my friend, but this is my best friend. You know, this is my best friend. But, like, how many adults still need to say that? Like, how many adults still need to say, oh, my friend Todd and I, and my best friend Tom and I, like, okay, like, so the extra special friend, like, what do they, do they get health insurance with that? Like, what is the deal with that? So I think that's kind of what marriage has become, is it's like, you know, well, the person I love, no, but like the person I love. Like, there's a lot of people I love. I wouldn't want to be married to any of them. But there's a lot of people I love, you know, and I love my ex-wife. I wouldn't want to be married to her. Exactly. I think she loves me. She wouldn't want to be married to me. I don't blame her. I'm a great ex-husband. I'm a terrible husband. I'm a great ex-husband. Because the skill set for an ex-husband is totally different than the skill set for a husband. Skill set for a father is completely different than that of a husband. That's the thing I have to tell people all the time. All the time. People say, well, he's a terrible husband, so he shouldn't have custody of the kids. I'm like, what the fuck? Where's the overlap between being a good husband and being a good father? Like, being a good father is a whole different skill. You can be a great husband and a shit father, and you can be an amazing father and a terrible husband. Like, there's very little overlap in those skill sets. You know, maybe good listening skills would be helpful in both, or patience would be good in both, but that's true of almost anything. You know, it's a doctor and a lawyer. Both be good if you had good listening skills. It doesn't mean they're the same profession. So,
is divorce harder on women or men?
That's a great question. I think it's equally hard on both. But I think that the world is more sympathetic to women when they get divorced. I think when a woman gets cheated on, the man's a piece of shit. And when a woman cheats on a man, she must have been forced into the arms of this other man, or she had to explore herself, or she was being neglected in some fashion. And so if a man cheats, he's a piece of garbage. And if a man's wife cheats, he mustn't have been meeting her needs. Mm-hmm. And she had every right in the world. Like, so the world is very unsympathetic
to men, right?
To men when they get divorced.
But that's been throughout
Yeah, that's
right
been
now.
for. I mean, there was a maternal presumption, a legal presumption, what was called the tender years doctrine, which was that if a child was under the age of 7, they were automatically presumed that they would be in the custody of the mother. And men get really beat up still in court. I mean, the law theoretically is gender blind right now, but I don't actually see that, because the law is people. The law is judges, and judges are human, and they have all the same biases. And it's just not a moment right now where men are particularly sympathetic characters. You know, I think that, you know, even young men. I mean, if at a school dance they sing Beyonce's "Girls Who Runs the World," like if there was a song called "Men Who Runs the World," men, and it was a positive thing, like you get pilloried for that. So I think that men have a very hard time right now in divorce. They see their children less. They get hit harder financially. They are the bad guy no matter what. If they cheat, they're the bad guy. If they get cheated on, they were the bad guy because they probably neglected her. There's a presumption that the man is to blame a lot of the time. Now, again, you know, marriage equality has been a thing for a while. So there are, you know, tons of gay couples. So you have 2 men, 2 women divorcing each other. And that hasn't really shook out too much yet in terms of how that plays out. I don't know if it's that gay and lesbian couples are better at it than heterosexual couples, or if it's still they're in the honeymoon period, because, you know, marriage equality hasn't been around that long. But I think men find a less sympathetic world. But, in fairness, divorced men have it a little easier, I think. Divorced men meet a young woman, and the woman's like, instant family, just add me. That's great. You know, if he's got kids, it's like, oh, he's got kids. Look at how nurturing he is.
Men who are going through it in their marriage have it easy too.
They get divorced. They've got kids.
Because other women like that shit.
Like, whoop, it's got baggage. I'm not going near that.
Other women like that shit.
So I think that men and women have different problems post divorce, and the world could be better to both of them. I think that I have some women who you know, I've done their divorce, and whatever guy is with them is going to be very lucky, because they're beautiful, they're smart, they're good moms, but they're also, you know, vibrant, exciting women.
Now they're loaded.
And they've got money now. Yeah, they've got money. They don't have as much financial insecurity. Although I have to tell you that, you know, it's the last remaining feminist taboo. I got a lot of women paying alimony these days. I mean, you know, women marry the, like, handsome musician who's not successful, or the artist, you know. Like, there's a lot, listen, it hasn't been, you know, there's been a significant effort in our culture in the last decade, if anyone didn't notice, to improve the situation of women. If you have an equally qualified man and an equally qualified woman, the woman's the diversity hire, the man's not. So I have a lot of women who get, when they get told, like, oh yeah, no, you got to give him half your shit, or oh no, you got to pay alimony because he makes $50,000 a year and you make $250,000. And they're like, you know, they could be the staunchest feminist in the world, and when you tell them they got to pay alimony, they're like, whoa, 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 he's a man. He's got a strong back. He can get out there and work. And then suddenly the whole, like, gender is a construct and there's no such thing, that goes right out the window when you get told you got to pay alimony. That's like, nope, no. I believe in strict gender roles. Men should pay alimony. Women, even if you earn 10 times, you should not have to pay alimony. I've had very, very staunchly feminist clients who changed their mind about how feminist they were when they got told that they were going to have to pay alimony.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I do have a lot of men who won't take alimony even though they're entitled to it.
Whoa.
Because there's just some feeling of like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. It's emasculine.
Crazy.
She tells people that
I would take that alimony faster than my dog eating crumbs.
It's all gender stuff. It's still out there. It's still part of the zeitgeist. You know, we're still trying to figure it all out.
I want it.
How many marriages are genuinely happy, you think? How many married couples?
Gosh.
Such a subjective.
Because I see married couples that have been married.
Question.
It looks like they've been married a decade or two. Yeah. And they're having dinner and they're having the same conversation they had yesterday, or the day before, or the day before that, and the weeks and months before that. And it just
here's what I'll tell you. I know a lot of people, and I think I know one couple that has like a genuinely happy marriage.
What do you think the secret is?
They really like each other.
Yeah, just gotta really like each other.
They're really good to each other.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, they make me very uncomfortable. I jokingly, my ex-wife and I jokingly say that they were the reason we got divorced, because we've known them since we were in college, and we went to Disney with them, with their kids and our kids when all the kids were little, and we were going to go on a ride with our kids and their kids, and they were going to, like, you know, we'll take the kids on the ride and you guys can go. And my friend was like, oh good, we're just going to go walk and hold hands. And they walked away and, like, holding hands, and we looked at them and we didn't say anything to each other. But like 5 years later when we got divorced, I said, you know, when I saw the two of them together, I thought, I don't feel like that about her. Like, and she said, oh my God, I remember that exact moment. I felt the same way. So I think they make people uncomfortable. Like, when you see someone who's got it right, like, this guy just loves her. He loves her. They've been married 25 years, and dude, it's like he's talking about a girl he met yesterday. And she's the same way about him. Like,
it's a miracle when that happens.
Yeah, I just think you know, man, I tell people, marriage is like the lottery. You are probably not going to win. Mm-hmm. You know, but if you win, what you win is so good. Like, I don't know, maybe you buy a ticket. Fuck it. Like, but buy it to get a prenup. Like, do you take all your money and buy lottery tickets? No. But and I don't buy lottery tickets. Like, I don't play the lottery. You're not going to fucking win. Why? You know, set the money on fire. It'll be more fun. But if somebody said to me, no, man, you know what? Once a week, I buy $20 worth of lottery tickets. All right, go for it. You know, somebody's got to win. Maybe it'll be you. Like, same thing with marriage. Like, maybe somebody's got to win. Like, yeah, I've met hundreds, if not thousands of couples, and I know one
that come to his
that
top.
is legitimately happy and, like, that's really crazy. Seem to just feed that happiness by that marriage that they have. Yeah. And they both, as individuals, have become the best version of themselves by being, you know what, like, if that's, they won the lottery, so buy the ticket, I guess. You know?
It's magical.
I mean,
when it works.
Don't make that your retirement plan. Like, don't go like, well, you know, don't worry, I'm not saving money for my kids' college because, you know, I'm buying lottery tickets. Like, you're an idiot if you're doing that.
Excellent. Jim, thank you so much for sharing your story.
It's a pleasure.
Your thoughts on marriage and love and divorce. Fascinating topic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I suspect it will continue to be. I don't know that we're going to culturally get any better at it, but the economy's good, we're busy. Economy's bad, we're busy. Like, we're a recession-proof industry, so, you know, it's even COVID didn't slow us down. You know,
probably sped you up.
Well, people said for better or for worse. They didn't say for lunch. You know, and when you're locked in the house together, that was not great for most marriages. Like, there was no it was not, hey, we should all spend more time together. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a lot of difficult conversations that came out of that. Barbers and divorce lawyers, when the pandemic ended, the lines were out the door. You know, so whatever the next thing is, you know, we'll still be here.
All right, man. These are my final thoughts on this divorce attorney or lawyer, whatever you want to call him, and how well articulated he was and well read on the history of marriage and having his own view on marriage. Wow, what a great conversation that was, man. Like, to just be able to sit here and listen to that amount of mind-opening opinion on marriage and what he thinks it to be was like just hearing a whole new understanding of what marriage even is. You know, and it makes you think about your own marriage if you're married. It makes you think, do you really want to get married? Because it's so much deeper than just the wedding and signing some papers. It's way more than that. And it's a scary thing. And, you know, wow, just wow. I want to clap it up for Soft White Underbelly. That was a great conversation. Hey, man, leave some comments down in there. Let us know what you think about that. That was a great. This is just great. That was a great talk, bro. I feel like I had questions that were answered. I felt like I got relief. I feel like I just got out of a marriage even though I was married myself, you know, that's why I related to this video. I'm like, you know what, let me watch this and see what he's talking about. I just feel like I just got alimony after having a divorce with this crazy chick that I married. I felt like, man, finally, like I just feel like I feel like, that was a relief. Wow, man, that was some, and you know, the viewer never has known this man, but we see him talk about this subject so elegantly, in a sense, for lack of better wording, so well pronunciated. We feel like he's a star of a movie now. We feel like the viewer feels like we know who he is now. If we saw him out in public, we'd probably be, hey man, you from South Orange Valley, you were talking about your profession as a divorce attorney, and you know, you had the funny jokes and a witty way of expressing how you felt about it. Very relatable. We love it, man. Keep it going. Keep it up. Now he's famous. But, man, that was just really good. That was a good conversation. Hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and peace out and probably think about that the rest of the night. That was just some deep shit, bro. I love things that make me think like that. Like, what was the quote he said? Oh, how I wish when I saw stars, I didn't know astrology. Oh, bro, that was. I'm on a edible right now, and that was just like explosion, bro. Like that was just so deep. That was so deep. Wow, man. You know, but like I said, the divorce talk is very emotional stuff. But hey, like I said, man, have a good night. Peace out. I'll be back soon. Hannah Smash.